I'm really excited today to be joined by two great friends of Forte. Today I'm joined by Mary from GMAT, the makers of the GMAT exam, as well as Hannah from Access MBA, who hosts some wonderful events across the world for candidates like yourself. My name is Ashley. I'm the director of pre-MBA programs at Forte, so I get to oversee all of the programming we do for candidates like yourself that are on this journey to an MBA program, considering an MBA. My career, my background, it really is in admissions. So I've spent over 10 years in recruitment and admissions, mostly in the graduate business space. Full-time MBA, also some work on executive and master's programs as well. And I've been at Forte for about 5 years. And today we want to give you some advice on some steps that you can take as you're considering an MBA in the future, give you some insights into the power of an MBA, as well as the application process and some events and recommendations that we're going to make to hopefully make this journey even more enjoyable and to get you success in your business school journey. So if you're new to the work here at Forte, we're all about fueling the future of business, helping you reimagine what's possible, making the MBA a reality for more candidates through programming like this webinar today, as well as many other programs that we put on, which I'll talk about in a little bit. We're a nonprofit organization. We've been around for over 20 years, and the MBA has really been at the heart of a lot of the work that we do. And there's a lot of value in the MBA. It's a very powerful degree. It is a generalist degree, but we know it can be life-changing. It can be transformative for your career. So we're excited to partner with two wonderful organizations today to talk about the power of the MBA and to give you some advice. So there's lots of different reasons why you might be seeking an MBA. And our friends at GMAT do great research with candidates around why they're seeking an MBA. And whether you're thinking about an MBA because you want a network, so maybe your undergraduate school was small or maybe it was huge, and you feel like you need a more solid network in your professional career, an MBA is a great way to do that. It is also a great way to change the trajectory of your career. An MBA can help you change industries. It can help you change functions. It is a great way to also change locations if you want to move to a new part of the country or a new part of the world. An MBA is a wonderful way to go about doing that. And then I think also particularly important, it is a great return on investment. So this starting salary, post-MBA starting salary, some caveats on this. I think this is top 50 programs in the US starting salary. The median base starting salary for top 10 programs was closer to 150 to 175. There's also an average signing bonus of about 30K. So I think the return on investment is something we should talk about more and more with an MBA. And it's something you also want to think about as well, right? You're going to be giving up some amount of time and effort to go and do this program. And so thinking about how much money you might make on the outside is great. And there's been some just wonderful data around the power of the MBA as it pertains to return on investment. I think that is not necessarily true for all graduate degrees, but the MBA is a great way if you're thinking about your future earning potential. Doing an MBA in your career is a great way to change the trajectory of your earning potential as well. And then another great thing about an MBA is that it is a wonderful way to gain some business fundamentals. So maybe you didn't study business as an undergraduate, but maybe you've kind of been thrown into doing business. Or maybe you're not in business and you really need to gain those key fundamentals. And MBA is a wonderful way to do that. So the MBA, you can have studied anything as an undergraduate student to do an MBA, which is also awesome because there's no right or wrong career pre-MBA. MBA programs are often looking for great diversity in their classes. And so those unique aspects of your background or your education that you bring to the table make you a valuable asset to potential MBA programs as well. So we also understand that, as I mentioned, GMAT does lots of great data. As they kind of think about the impact on their career, kind of what people said, I think all of these things end up being very true. So as you think about, okay, these are the reasons I might want to do an MBA, but does those actually bear out in the data? And the answer is yes. So many candidates strongly agree that things like employability and the earning power change. So again, like the very practical nature of what you're looking for in a professional experience is really important. You want to increase your employability. Every step you take in your career hopefully is making you more and more employable as you go through. But again, there's also things like that professional network. I also think in today's world, the idea of having increased job security is particularly important as everything is shifting, as new technology is becoming more commonplace, as employers are changing how and when and where they employ people. Having some solid ground under you is really important, and an MBA is a great way to go about doing that. I also mentioned earlier that there's not really a right or wrong background to coming to an MBA program. I think sometimes candidates think that there are traditional backgrounds that lend themselves to an MBA, and certainly candidates that have familiarity with business might be more inclined to do an MBA because they're familiar with the degree. But you can come into an MBA with any background. And as you mentioned, I've worked for 10 years in admissions. We've had candidates that were teachers, candidates that were artists, candidates that come from just about everywhere in the industry come to do an MBA. Now, as kind of outcomes go, there's some popular industries for students after they graduate from their MBA, and I believe these are in ascending order. So consulting being the most popular, followed by finance and technology. I would say those three over the last probably 5 to 10 years have somewhat held steady. Healthcare certainly has also gotten more popular, but as you can see, these industries are pretty wide and broad, right? And there's lots of different functional roles that you can have within these various different industries. And so again, the MBA is a generalist degree, so it means you could go into finance just as much as you could go into real estate as you think about possible next steps in your career. So all this to say that you should certainly see more doors opened with an MBA in your career. Again, that increased job security, increased employability, and increased starting salary is always nice as well. The other thing I want to mention about an MBA is there's lots of different ways you can get an MBA. There's lots of kind of different flavors of MBA that exist. The most traditional here in the United States is typically a full-time 2-year program. 1-year programs do exist as well. But then there's lots of different ways you can do an MBA also if you wanted to keep working. There's lots of flexibility in part-time, hybrid, online programs. Also, if you're a little more advanced in your career, that might be something more like an executive or a mid-career program that exists. There's also special programs. If you're an undergraduate student, you can apply to an MBA program now while you're an undergrad to save a seat in the class or to do an early career program. And then, of course, there are 1-year programs. There are lots of different options out there. So the MBA does come in a lot of different flavors. And there's also a lot of different things to consider as you're thinking about an MBA. So there's all these different kind of components as you think about schools. And when we start to talk about going to events, we'll dive a little bit deeper into this about how to evaluate these different aspects of programs. But just as many of you have your own unique story, there are MBA programs out there with unique properties that are perfect for candidates of all different backgrounds. And so just know that there is absolutely more than one ideal program out there for you. So if right now you might only know a couple of names of MBA programs, or maybe you don't know any, I promise that there are many, many wonderful programs out there, and all of our organizations work with many different MBA programs across the globe that offer a wonderful opportunity for candidates just like yourself. So know that there's this idea of kind of program fit, and I guarantee that there's an MBA program out there that would love you in their cohort and would be the perfect fit for your goals going forward. So I do want to take the opportunity to have our friend Mary from GMAT talk a little bit about kind of what you need to know, a little bit about the application process, a little bit also about the GMAT exam, what it is, where it came from, why it exists. So Mary, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much for that introduction. And hi, everyone. So I have 10 minutes and I'm trying to make the most of this 10 minutes and give you as much free information, resources, guidance, quick hit information to get you started and make you feel like you have a little bit more information, a little more confidence going into your kind of exploration process as you start considering an MBA. So starting off really quickly, jumping right in, some quick hits about the MBA application. Here are a few just kind of snapshots of MBA applications by the numbers. 1 to 2 pages is your average resume length, which is a big part of your application. There are 3 rounds of application rounds for most MBAs. That means different kind of cycles under which you can apply to the same program. There are pros and cons to each of those cycles. 30, 45 minutes, typical MBA interview, which is an important component. 6 weeks is kind of the minimum for GMAT preparation. And I'll talk a little bit more about exams and the way exams kind of fit into your application in a little bit. 5 years is the average work experience for an MBA, but like Ashley mentioned, MBA comes in a lot of different flavors. That is just the average. There are plenty of people that are going earlier after their undergraduate career, later in their careers as well. And from our kind of research, 12 months is a really the ideal application runway for giving yourself the best opportunity to prepare a competitive application for the programs that you're aiming for. Obviously, again, you can do it faster, you can do it longer, but the more runway you have, the more preparation you can put in, the better your results typically we kind of find. Um, when it comes to thinking about the application process, it really is holistic. So it's not just checking a bunch of boxes or looking, kind of distilling your experience down to a few numbers. It really is about taking a look at your work experience, your perspective on life, your academic aptitude, your personal characteristics. So all of this weighs in to how your application is evaluated, and the different components of the MBA application are really there to provide that kind of broad that opportunity for you to showcase not just hard skills, but also soft skills and really demonstrate why you're pursuing an MBA, what your motivation is, and help convince the admissions team that their program is going to help you get to your goals. Because ultimately, I think that's what most admissions offices are looking for, is to figure out how they can fit on your journey and help you find the success that you're looking for. Um, so I think that kind of leads me into kind of the different ways that the different steps that you need to take to get to that application. And obviously, application is just one part of that journey. Um, but first, you might be wondering, what is GMAC and why am I in a position to talk to you about this and give you advice about this? So a little bit about our organization. We're the Graduate Management Admissions Council. We've been around for decades. We're a global nonprofit council of leading business schools around the globe, and we're really dedicated to ensuring talent never goes undiscovered. So we put a lot of effort into providing lots of free resources, free and paid resources to help you kind of shine and find your way through your MBA kind of application business school journey. We have 228 member schools spanning 34 countries, and 12 million, over 12 million prospective students access our resources every year and lean on us, whether it's through our free resources, all of our content. We do a lot of analysis of kind of the admissions landscape and give all of that insight to you for free, as well as running the GMAT exam, which I will help demystify if that is something that causes you a little anxiety to hear. Where we do create the exam, but we also want you to do your best in the exam. So I'm going to share a little bit more in a bit about how to best approach that test. And again, we're really here to support like your aspirations. We are best known for the GMAT exam, but we're here whether you're exploring, researching options, getting to know schools, or preparing for that application success with exams. We have kind of something for every part of that journey. And a lot of, again, of this is free because we want you to do your best. But diving in quickly to the GMAT and kind of the role that an exam plays in your application. So um, a lot of schools, I will be very candid with you, a lot of schools, it's optional to take an exam or you have multiple exam options. But I think the opportunity of an exam is really about demonstrating your business acumen. It's about adding a component to your application, especially if maybe you have a less traditional background. Maybe you were an arts major in school, maybe you currently work in a non-business, non-traditional field, and you're looking to go into business and learn more about it. The GMAT especially is really well positioned to help you demonstrate that you have those skills to do well in business school and that you're committed to the endeavor, and to really kind of demonstrate that you have dedicated time and you understand what it will take to do well in a GME program and beyond that. So a few stats about the program. The GMAT is accepted by over almost 8,000 schools worldwide. Over 100,000 folks take the GMAT exam every year. And it really is an exam designed to demonstrate those in-demand business skills to your schools and to today's employers as well. So what does this exam look like? There are three components to the exam. It's about 2 hours of an exam. There's quantitative reasoning, verbal reasoning, and data insights. Again, we're a nonprofit council of business schools, so we're constantly getting feedback from universities and the schools that we work with about what they want to see, what they're looking to evaluate candidates on. So we recently revamped the GMAT exam, you might have heard, a couple of years ago, to add the data insight section and get rid of the personal essay. That was a direct result of schools being like, hey, we already have a personal essay in our application. We don't need that again. but we really want to know about how you can analyze data, how our candidates can analyze data, because that's a really key skill that we know is going to be big for schools, for our programs, and also for employers on the other end of programs. So this test is really responsive to and designed to really be focused on what schools are looking for and also what employers are looking for also in terms of skills and foundational understanding. Um, these are There are equal number of questions in each of these, or they're equally weighted for your score. Um, Quick hits about kind of what makes it a little bit different as well. So the exam has kind of a structure, but you also have some ability to shape the exam. So that is very much part of your preparation process and how you're thinking about strategizing and approaching the exam is to figure out how you can optimize these decisions that you have to make for the exam when you're preparing. For example, you have the opportunity to review and edit questions if you have time at the end of each section. You actually get to design the section order. So part of your preparation will be trying to figure out what order you take the exam in. Do you want to start with the hardest section for you and get it over with? Do you want to build up to the hardest section at the end? That's kind of all part of your preparation and decision-making process. There's also a flexible break, so you get to choose when to take a break if you want to take a break. And also we have accommodations that can be secured ahead of time to meet kind of your needs to do your best on the exam. And again, the GMAT score does count significantly in terms of how admissions folks weigh their decisions. It's proven to boost your admissions odds, to demonstrate your commitment to business school, and also it makes you a stronger candidate, especially for those higher, more competitive schools as well. So just quick hit here is just some free resources to help you get started. We've got a link to our free 6-week study planner, which is a good place to start and kind of preview what it might take to prepare for the exam. And also a link to our free GMAT starter kit, which comes with 2 full-length practice exams. So definitely recommend that when you kind of get around to it, take that first exam just to get a flavor and feel. This is not an exam that you walk in and take cold. You should definitely do some preparation, but it's good to do that first test to get a litmus test of how it feels. It really does model the actual exam experience. And so you can get a feel for it, see what your baseline is, and kind of use that information to figure out your plans for achieving your goals in your application journey. And again, definitely recommend you open an account on MBA.com, which is our main website full of free resources, and you'll be the first to know about new information coming out of our admissions studies, and also discounts that might come through seasonally as well. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary. I'm just gonna reiterate that the 6-week study planner and the 2 free practice exams are gold. So for candidates, MBA.com is also just a great resource for information about this process. So, earlier I had some data that's from MBA.com. That's from all of these amazing partner schools that Mary was just talking about. And so great opportunity to just poke around. There's also like information there like, hey, I'm thinking about a career in finance. What do I need to know about a career in finance? And there's information from alumni and schools. And so it's just a really great resource to kind of do some research with a lot of data backing that information. So rather than just like headline grabbing, it is actually good data backed research. So big fan of MBA.com, and also like the easiest website to remember. So it's also nice too. Mary also talked about the application process, so I do want to make a plug for a program that we run here at Forte called MBA Launch. So as you're going through the application process, if you're thinking you want some assistance in the application, Mary kind of touched on the different components that exist as far as kind of like professional, personal, kind of putting together this application package. We do have our MBA Launch program. We offer it in 3 different flavors. We have an on-demand program. So if you're applying in the next few weeks to an MBA program, on-demand is a great option. We also have a hybrid program that's designed for January deadline. So Mary kind of mentioned there's like typically three deadlines, usually a fall, a January, and then a spring deadline. If you're thinking about those January deadlines, we have a hybrid program, just kind of a 7-week sprint to get you ready for January deadlines. And then if you're early in this process, which I imagine many of you might be, highly recommend you check out our cohort program, which is actually a full 8-month program. So that means you go through the entire application process. We do lots of things, give you lots of time to study and prepare for the GMAT as well. So want to make a plug for that program. It's a great option to be thinking about if you're contemplating the application process. And you get to do it with a community of peers, which is nice too. So definitely not a process that is as fun by yourself. So And thank you, Mary, for dropping some links into the chat of the things we just mentioned too. So as you're going through, as I said, there's lots of different information out there. Made a plug for MBA.com. I'll of course make a plug for our website as well. You also, I would recommend going to straight to the source. So great places to get information are also school websites and their class profiles. So again, if you Google, MBA programs, there's going to be lots of headline grabbing information out there, information from third parties. But if you want the real data, I would definitely recommend, going straight to schools for information on their class profile. They're usually very forthcoming about the application process because they want you to be successful. Also, another great resource to use is actually connecting with schools directly, connecting with alumni and current students, getting a chance to connect with schools through events and presentations. And one of the great ways that you can do that is through an event like the events that our friends at Access put on. So Access puts on events all over the globe. And so I'm going to turn it over to Hannah, who's going to talk a little bit about attending events, what to expect, give you an idea of also if you attended an Access event and what to expect there too. So Hannah, take us away.
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you also for giving me the opportunity to join today. I always love the any opportunity to talk to women and help them sort of look at their next steps on their career and how they can pursue their goals. So this is great. So for those of you who may not know Access MBA, we are part of an organization called the Advent Group. We're European based, but very, very strong in the US. So we run something like 120 events every year in 60 countries around the world. And currently we're just wrapping up our US tour. We're in Chicago and then Boston tomorrow, but we've just done a whole stateside tour of over 15 US cities. So, an opportunity for anybody that's looking at an MBA study to come along and find out more. So let me tell you a little bit about what we do and how we operate. And then I've also got a very short video clip that I was hoping that I might share just to give you a flavor of an Access MBA event. But as you just went through, Ashley, there's a lot of information out there that you can find out yourself. We live in a fortunate time when there is so much information. And anybody interested in MBA can, as you say, go onto a school website or join all kinds of online and face-to-face events. What we do at Access MBA is we try and provide events that are quite personal. So we're trying to give candidates an opportunity to sit down and chat to schools and have a real in-depth conversation about their programs, about the MBA. And I think that's quite different and it's quite unique. I know that candidates can find that there is a lot of information and trying to drill down and finding that right fit is really, really tough. So coming to an event such as ours, but I know also Forte events and I know GMAT do events. So having that face-to-face time with a school is really, really important. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about sort of how to make the most of an Access MBA event. But before I do that, I thought I would just share this clip. So bear with me as I go through my technical issues that no doubt I will have as I try and find the clip and make sure that the sound is on. And so just let me know if you can see and hear this. Just give it a second to load. And that was it in a nutshell, just showing you what an Access MBA event it might look like. So I thought what would be useful. I mean, I'll give you a bit of background on myself and the organization, but then also just to talk really about how somebody joining an event can make the most of it. So Advent have been around for over 20 years. We really specialize within the MBA field. So we work a lot with business schools around the world, helping to connect them with the right candidates. Myself, I've been with Advent for 3 years, but I've got a long history of working within this space. And I did my own EMBA a year back at a school here in the UK where I'm based. And there were lots of reasons why I wanted to do an EMBA, but it was always like trying to find the right time. When's the right time to actually do an MBA? And finally, it was just like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And it was one of the best things I did for myself. It was a lot about personal development. It was a lot about what it is that at my stage in my life and with my career as it is, where I'm trying to get to, and what might actually propel me to that next stage. And so the Ember for me was amazing. So I'm all in, and I often gush about, the virtues of doing an MBA. So I'm probably, the most positive person to speak about this, because I come from a place of having done it myself. Um, so let's talk a bit about events, and let's talk about how somebody joining an Access MBA event or any other event, but for that matter, can make the most of it. I think the most important thing to remember is that when you go to an event and you walk into a room full of schools, it's why are those schools there? So some of them may have only traveled up the road, but some of them may have come from a different city or a different town or even a different country. And they're there because they want to meet candidates from your city. They want diversity in their classroom. They want interesting profiles. Ashley, you touched upon that earlier. So they're there because they really want to meet good candidates and hopefully enroll them onto their programs. So that's the first thing to remember. And then just to think about being open-minded. So I know that when we meet with candidates at our events, a lot of them come in and they have an idea about what they want to study, where they want to study, what they're looking for from a program. I always say when you come to one of our events, be completely open-minded. Don't just limit yourself to what you've come in prepared to do. Think outside of the box. Think about meeting with lots of different schools. I often meet with candidates who say, I only want to stay in New York. And I say, well, have you thought, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. You may never, ever do an MBA again, and really should only do it once. So make it count, make it special, make it an experience that you can really look back on and think, God, that was really worth it. And it was an amazing experience. So maybe, yes, consider New York, but consider, I don't know, San Francisco, consider London, consider Milan. The opportunities are there. And if you're going to invest in yourself, make the most of it, make it something that, as I said, you will really look back and think, wow, that was a great experience. The other thing that's really important, and again, Ashley mentioned things like networks. So it's about what you want to achieve post MBA, where you want to head with that MBA. And so a network is really, really important. Maybe you want an international career, and therefore studying somewhere abroad like London, Milan, Frankfurt, whatever, is going to help you build that network, help you find contacts where you can then post-study, look at your career. But if you really are just saying, I want to stay in the US, then obviously it would be a natural fit to choose a program that is based in the US. But just be open-minded, go to an event, talk to as many schools as you can. At Access MBA, we have meeting slots. So you have a 20-minute session. And sometimes it's a one-to-one session, sometimes it'll be a one to many, as we call it, in a small group setting. So you'll join a few other candidates who are also looking at that program. And it's a good opportunity to ask questions. It's also good to listen and hear what the other candidates are asking, because sometimes you learn from other people and they ask questions that you've not even thought about. So make the most of it, also engaging with the other candidates that are there. Often after an event, we'll have a networking session. So we'll have refreshments and we'll have drinks, and we'll just give you that chance to talk to other candidates who are in the same, perhaps trajectory as yourself, or same situation, who are thinking MBA, not sure why, not sure where. And that's also a great way of learning about the other opportunities. Often I'll have candidates who'll come and talk to me afterwards and say, do you know, I didn't know such and such. And it's only because they've spoken to another candidate and they've learned something that evening from that candidate. So it's all about making the most of that opportunity, and just getting the most out of it. I know, and we all know, you can go onto websites and you can get lots of information. You can type into Chat GPT, where's the best school for return on investment, and it'll give you your short list. But you're never going to find out what that program is really like, or the cultural fit, whether you're going to fit on that program, whether that program is really going to help you. So I think it's just about being super open-minded when you go to an event, make the most of it, block that time out in your diary, go and speak to as many schools as you can, speak to schools that you probably aren't even considering, but maybe they offer something interesting. and you can go and find out more at that event. And it gives you options. It always gives you options. When you go away from an event, it'll give you options whether you want to do more research or whether you've met a school that evening and you think that was a really good fit. I really like that person. That program sounded interesting. And then you're ready to apply. So it's all about just making the most of the event.
Awesome. Hannah, thank you so much. I think I will definitely, wearing my former admissions hat, I will say admissions reps want to talk to candidates. The best events are when an admissions rep gets to talk the whole time. They don't want to sit at their table by themselves. At an event like Access where you're doing a small group meeting, sometimes I think candidates are so nervous. And I'm like, oh, those are our favorites when we actually get to talk to you and hear your story. Schools love that. That's why schools are there, is they want to have those conversations with you. So at an Access event, or if you're at a GMAT tour event where you're having those small group meetings, actually getting to talk to admissions rep is really rewarding for the representative and should be very insightful for the candidates as well. The other thing you mentioned, Hannah, is the other people you're going to meet at the events. And I think sometimes through this process, you can somewhat encounter a bit of that like imposter syndrome. Do I belong here? Oh my gosh, these people seem really like with it, and everyone's on their own journey, on their own path to an MBA, and some people might be farther along. Maybe they've already taken the GMAT and you haven't yet, or they have different goals than you. Again, that diversity is what schools are looking for. And the candidates that you meet that are sitting next to you at one of those events might also be future peers. So whether they end up in the same classroom as you or at a different MBA program, those are going to be people that are great professional connections. So if nothing else, these events are just a great way to professionally network. And I'll say, I know, Access is wrapping up their US tour right now. I know GMAC has some virtual events this week. I know we have a staff member attending a virtual event this evening for GMAC. And so these events are happening all the time. So wherever you live in the world, whatever time zone you're in, whatever city you're in, there are events that are happening because schools are really eager to talk to you. They want to speak to you. And so that's why these events are put on. And so just know that you can come kind of wherever you are. I think that's the other thing Hannah kind of talked about, like, regardless of kind of where you are in this process, an event is a great way to get some good insight. And sometimes, alums are there, students are there, but admissions reps are great connections that you'll want to make to really kind of hear about it. Because nothing really beats actually getting to talk to somebody about the program face to face. I think we all can agree on that for sure. Wonderful. Thank you. I do want to make a plug. Also, as I mentioned, both Access and GMAC are doing some events right now. Of course, here at Forte, we're also doing some events. So we have a couple upcoming. We have a couple upcoming, virtual events upcoming. There we go. That I wanted to make a plug for. So if you're thinking maybe you want to keep working while you're doing an MBA, we do have an executive and professional forum coming up next week. We also have a Breaking Barriers forum coming up at the end of October for candidates who are from more underrepresented backgrounds. And then we have a full-time forum in December, and these are open to candidates, again, regardless of where you are in the process. And I know there's some events taking place virtually for GMAC, and then GMAC, I know, is also doing some events in some cities across the US. Just know that there's lots of events taking place, and any of the organizations that are out there are eager to have you. And I would say, this is something you're going to want to continue doing throughout the process. So it's not like you just go to an event once and you're like, all right, I did it. I did all the things, right? You might go early in the process, and then as you're continuing your school research, the next time you go to an event, you might be a little more selective about who you're talking to. But to Hannah's point, some of these schools have traveled across the globe to meet candidates just like yourself. So if there's an event happening in your city, I highly, highly recommend making the effort to be there, because it's definitely worthwhile to talk to the schools and to connect with other candidates as well. So we love events. We're big fans of them in all of our organizations. We put them on all the time because we know this is a great way for candidates to connect with great schools and find your great match, find your future MBA home for sure. The other thing I'll mention is we here at Forte do lots of events. So we love a good event. We're actually doing two right now. So this slide, we have an event going on. If you're watching this on YouTube, we also have an event going on with our friends at Ramba MLT and Consortium. But we do lots of different events upcoming, because we also understand that there's lots of different aspects of this program, whether it's, the application process, it's understanding your professional goals. It's, what is the actual experience like as you go through an MBA program. So I want to make a plug for some upcoming webinars that we're doing here as well. Thank you as well for both Hannah and Mary also dropping links in the chat for their upcoming events. We would love to see you at one of those events as well. So with that, I do want to pause and see if we have any audience questions. We got through the content that we wanted to cover in a pretty quick amount of time. So thank you all for being here. Big thank you to Hannah and Mary for the content here as well. You're welcome to reach out to our team at any point should you have any questions. And thank you for the links. There's lots of great links in the chat. Hopefully y'all can see the chat there. If not, feel free to send us an email and we can send you any of the links there. But happy to answer questions. Feel free to drop those in the Q&A. You should be able to see those, the Q&A section there as well. And there was a question earlier. This is being streamed to our YouTube page. So if you want to go back and watch the recording at any point, you can do that by going to our YouTube page. But I'll pause just in case there are any questions. Otherwise, Mary or Hannah, any final thoughts as we get ready to close out?
I think if I may just add one final point about events, and it was lovely seeing all those events that you're running specifically focused on women. I think that attending an event and speaking to a school is not just the school evaluating you, you're also getting to evaluate the school. So just to do a bit of preparation, turn up with some questions, do some research before you attend an event, understand how much an MBA costs, because often I'll speak to candidates and they have no idea. So just be a little bit prepared in terms of how you're going to approach that meeting, because it is like a test run, if you like, of an interview. So you are performing, if you like, for that school, but that school is also performing for you. So it's a two-way street. You're going to be looking at them and trying to understand how they're going to help you achieve your goals. Whilst they're looking at you thinking, what are you going to bring to the classroom? How will you fit into our cohort or our style of teaching? So it's a really useful way to just get that understanding for yourself. And as Ashley said, it's not just a one stop and it's all done. You should go to as many events as you can. If you're lucky to live in sort of a main city and there's lots of MBA events taking place, you should go to as many as possible. And just keep speaking to schools, keep asking those questions, keep understanding why that MBA program is going to help you and which one is going to be a good fit for you. And then you're in a really good position to make a decision. And I think the final thing I will say is about sort of research overload. Sometimes too much information makes that decision-making process harder. And I often get asked at our events, when is the right time for me to do an MBA? And the only answer I can give is that now is the right time, because there's never a perfect time. Next year isn't going to be any different probably to this year. You're not going to get things exactly as you want it to be. So just take that leap. You'll never regret, in my opinion, any education, but I don't think you'll ever regret taking an MBA. So yeah, those would be my final thoughts.
Yeah, and I think on a similar vein, my kind of final parting thought is that you can I think the best way to approach kind of exploring an MBA opportunity and preparing for an application is to view that as kind of the first step in your business school journey. It's not when you enter the classroom on the first day of your program that all of the work that you put into your application, into exploring schools, into networking, into meeting with school admissions offices, into preparing for the GMAT exam, all of these things actually are part of your business school training. And can be if you see it through that light, maybe it's a little less intimidating that these are just really essential skills that you're going to need to practice and demonstrate in an MBA program and beyond, and that even the process itself is a great learning opportunity and a part of that education that you're going to be acquiring in your eventual degree program as well.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. So thank you all for being here. Candidates, thank you so much for coming today and joining us. I'll do one final look. There was a question about the average number of schools that candidates apply to. And I think kind of as you're starting this initial process, I think to Hannah's point, your consideration set might be very large. So you might be kind of thinking big picture right now, and it's okay to kind of just be adding to the list. You don't necessarily need to start cutting until you're thinking about hitting submit on those or thinking about submitting those applications. It's okay to kind of be additive right now as you're thinking about where you might want to go. And so keeping that list long and then seeing if there's some threads maybe that connect those programs. Like, okay, all of a sudden I'm seeing like, I really like, a really small program. I'm starting to see that that's an important factor for me. So maybe that's how you start whittling down your list. Or you really are interested in doing, some sort of a study abroad while you're in a program, or you want to be in a really international class. Things like that, you might start seeing what really resonates with you, and that's how you're going to cut down your list. And then, typically I would say candidates probably apply anywhere from probably in the neighborhood of 3 to 8 programs, but depends on you, depends. Some candidates we work with just apply to 1. Some candidates apply to 10, that's a lot, but probably closer in the 5-ish range. But, I will make another plug for the program I mentioned earlier, MBA Launch, as you're starting to get into the application process. That's a great way we can help you kind of with that school selection piece. So once you've kind of been exposed to schools, Hannah mentioned you're kind of doing this research process. Once you start whittling that down, that can help as well. And certainly after you've taken the GMAT exam, that can also help you get an understanding of your potential competitiveness or one aspect of your competitiveness for programs as well. Well, thank you, Mary. Thank you, Hannah, for being here. It was my pleasure to moderate this conversation. It's always a pleasure to speak with organizations that help us on this journey to helping more candidates achieve their MBA goals. Thank you for being here today. Also thanks to my colleague Melissa for chatting in being chat queen today and helping on the tech side. Thank you all so much. I hope we see you at another event soon, and have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone.